Hi, my name is Gabrielle Miller. I am an archaeologist at the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, working in the Center for the Study of Global Slavery with projects you may know, such as the Slave Wrecks Project. So I consider myself an African diasporic archaeologist. I do both terrestrial and underwater archaeology, but underwater archaeology is what's brought me closest to my own community through history. So as a part of the Slave Wrecks Project and through my career as a maritime archaeologist, I've worked on 4 continents connecting stories in the African diaspora as related to the story of enslavement, but also the stories of freedom and building freer futures. So working in Mozambique, Senegal, on Black history through World War II, in Europe, in South America, and Brazil, where I am right now, and throughout the United States. There are so many stories under the water that are connected to Black history that us as Black scholars are growing in our abilities and our skills to actually work on and talk about these stories. So for me, I feel like Black history is a part of not just everything that I do in my career, but also a part of how I think of the future and who I do that in community with. So I feel like I'm also a part of history, being able to work with so many scholars, so many community members, so many cultural practitioners, so many artists that all love the water, that love diving, and are all a part of seeking to grow that community and build a future where there are no disconnections between us and the water. As an archaeologist and museum that sees so many visitors, allows me to connect with people who already come into that space in love with Black history and Black futures. So I just feel so blessed and so grateful to be a part of the work that I do here through the museum, and to be in community with so many more that think this work is important. I feel like I see Black futures in every part of this work. When I'm studying people in the past, I know that they were dreaming of their futures and they were collectivizing and creating tools to build those futures. And I see futures not just a part of a lot of the things I engage in now, like training the future, helping increase the connection to the water, like working with Diving with a Purpose and helping build the Swim to Scuba program in Africa Town. I see building futures in things like teaching on a graduate school level in French-speaking West Africa and the French-speaking Caribbean in our academy called Slave Wrecks Project Academy. I see building futures when we're able to tell these stories from beneath the waves and bring them to the surface and allow people to reflect on those systems that existed then and how they relate to the systems that exist now, so we can build something new and different. I think now there's a growing global community of Black people that I meet every day who see freedom and see future in the water. Everywhere I go, every space that I go to, every person I talk to, I end up finding more and more people who are simultaneously drawn to the water as a space for healing and as a space where we find a new way to conduct our future. So I see futures in the past. I try to build new futures in the work that I do. And I look to spaces like Aquatic Futures Foundation in joining in that effort to build up the next generation and create a future where the possibilities are endless. My identity is connected to the ocean in many ways. So, as a maritime archaeologist, that is my training ground and my space where I look to answer questions that can only be answered under the water. But also, as an individual, I've always felt such a close tie and draw to the water. Even growing up in the desert, going to visit my family every summer in California, I would find myself spending hours in the tide pools, in the aquarium of the Pacific, right there in California, and all of these spaces that I feel hold so much life and really envelop me as a cocoon to allow me to heal, to allow me to process my life. And so both as a scientist and as somebody who loves the water, I see making this work more accessible an essential part in making sure that other people who are separated from the water through violence, through histories of trauma, and through all these artificial means that have separated Black people from and Black communities from the water, I see it as an imperative to make that space more accessible, because water truly is a healing space that's meant for all of us. And the longer we're separated from that, the longer we're separated from yet another avenue of healing that we can approach. So I think water is very important to me, both as a marine scientist and as a human being and as a Black person. For me, the future of marine science looks like a future without barriers, a future where people are able to talk about the histories that they're most impacted by, where there's no barrier between them and the things that are underwater that are connected to their ancestry, to their story. And I think that there are so many organizations, the Slave Wrecks Project, Diving with a Purpose, Aquatics Future Foundation, Ocean Swim School, so many spaces that are coming together in collectivizing ways for us to break down those barriers. But to me, the future of marine science looks like a space where Black people don't have to be Black first. They can be marine scientists first, and that our contribution to the field isn't solely based on our identity, but is also wrapped up in all of the creativity, all of the questions, all of the nuance, all of the experiential love that we have for our own histories and stories, being a credit to the field, a credit to the academy, a credit to how we talk about these histories in association with those outside of these institutions that are normally meant to exclude us. So I think the future of marine science looks abundant, it looks diverse, it looks accessible, and it looks fearless. Octavia Butler is somebody that I admire a lot, who talks about building futures all the time. And when I think of what this space can look like, it looks like world building. And I think all of us are working a little bit harder to build a new world. And I think marine science is at the forefront of being able to access what new worlds are possible.